do you want to call this? Come on, Kick. Give me a couple of minutes, my friends. Just trying to get things set up here. Grab the caffeine. Or whiskey. Or whatever. You do you. Thumbnail. What? Come on, dude. Oh, dum-dum. Okay. All right, we're not. Kick can't figure out this new video format, and that's just because Kick sucks. So, Kick folks, my apologies. Their software sucks. Everybody else can figure it out, so Kick's gone. But I do want to try to figure out this Facebook thing. Oh gosh, is everybody struggling with? Oh no, okay. All right. Because the way we're showing the video output tonight is, this is the native resolution. So, and I much prefer this for a variety of reasons. And Kick doesn't seem to understand that people have formats other than pure, boring 1920 by 1080 or 4K or whatever, right? I actually think the traditional HD 4K is not wide enough, so my normal screens are like much wider. So anyway, let's see if okay. So the big thing is, as long as YouTube and IG can figure it out, we're good. But I've added a new member to our growing list, and that is Facebook. And so I want to see. There's a very interesting story behind Facebook, which maybe we'll get into. Let's check real quick to see. Okay, cool. Getting some stuff there. Not seeing any chatter from YouTube, but maybe people haven't chimed in yet. Kind of have a sneaking suspicion that's not true. Let's see. Yo, yo, yo. Colin. Sweet, man. You're... What does this purple thing mean? Oh, that's Twitch. Awesome. Okay, maybe what I need to do is activate this thingamabob. GL introspection? What's GL? From my mudding days, a long time ago, that stood for God load. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can get Facebook going. And by the way, this is what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Depending on how long I can last, we're going to cover all these babies. I mean, yeah. So, got a little fun stuff to talk about first. Movie, music. Then, quick thing on gatekeeping. And then principally, I want us to talk about critical thinking. I want us to do some deep dives on stuff and run some live experiments with us all playing and see if you guys can observe certain things that I've been observing. And again, the reason why I focus on the critical thinking stuff is critical thinking, abstract thought, granular reasoning, deep reasoning is these skills, I think, are wildly transitive. They can kind of like level you up in almost any aspect of your life. So it's almost like whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're spending your time working on, the better your critical thinking skills, the better your life's probably going to become. And I mean literally like pretty much everything. Not just programming and AI, but I'm talking about your ability to play music, your ability to build muscles at the gym, play music, have more meaningful relationships with people, grow in pretty much countless ways, your ability to interact and guide the AIs, synthesize new information, learn faster, learn more deeply. I mean, it's like everything levels up. So at least that's my take. So we're going to go into a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to look at this paper over here. By the way, I misunderstood. I thought this paper was worth reading, and I have some new thoughts now. But we're going to actually walk through how we can use critical thinking and deep reasoning to get a sense of this paper before even reading it. This is actually what a lot of us do in the scientific community when we're assessing papers. Before we ever even read a single word from the paper, we will do this analysis, and it'll give us essentially a high-level understanding. And by the way, you're going to have to let me apologize if I can't talk tonight. I had this crazy migraine, so I took some I was like feeling nauseous and headache. Anyway, I took some ibuprofen and things, and so my brain's not like firing at 100%. So if I can't talk or I'm slightly incoherent, that's why. And also, I'm me. But anyway, almost all of us in the scientific community, before we read and do peer review for any research paper we're assigned, will do this technique, which is all based in critical thinking and granular reasoning. And it gives us essentially a sense of the paper that tells us, it gives us an intuition of what we're getting into before we read a single word from that paper. And this is like a superpower, at least for me. I think you guys are going to like this. And yeah, as per usual, I'm doing 15 things at once. Thanks, Casper. Appreciate it. Yeah, I actually am starting to feel better. I can tell because the pain stuff is kicking in, but it's also part of the reason why you might hear some incoherency. Okay, so, but let's just see if Claude fixed this thing. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit better. We'll get into this in a second, but now GCC has an integrated polling system. We're just getting started. And you guys can already supposedly interact with this. I haven't actually tested it. Been busy building out all these other things, but while I set these things up, if you want to answer this, the way this works is super simple. All the polls, as long as it's active, you can answer. All you need to know is what the poll number is and what the answers are. The way to answer these things is you simply say the poll number. So you say P1 or P5 or whatever. You say space and then supply a number. And it should drop these A's here, but it's early days. So you can actually answer this poll right now. It's active. And you would just say P1 space 2 or 1. You also, for the most recent poll, you don't even need to specify the P1. If you just type, or supposedly you could just type the number and not the A, but Claude might have got that wrong. So you may need to try both ways. We'll see in a second. But for the polls, I'm going to have these polls running like long term. So I'll probably have maybe 30 polls running, and they'll persist. So once you vote, like it persists. It's keeping track of who you are, what your vote is. You can change your vote at any time. So if you give the wrong thing, just it remembers what you voted, and then it'll reassign you. So if you're like, oh shoot, actually that's wrong, I came from Facebook, you can change it to that, and then that should work. What's awesome about this though is first, for the most recent poll, you don't have to specify the poll number. You just say A1 or you say 1, just that, and then GCC will interpret that as an answer to the poll, and it'll automatically assign it. For any other polls that are not the current most recent poll, you have to specify the number so it knows which one you're referring to. And you can do this at any time. So what I'll probably do is on Discord, I will have the list of active polls or something. By the way, I'll probably start mining from Discord too, so you can answer the polls even when we're not live. So there'll be a polls channel, and you can literally just see the polls and then answer there. And then GCC will mine it and then add it here. This is actually going to be super helpful because there's certain things I really want to know from all of your feedback, and it will take time to collect some of the information. Anyway, so let's see if it's actually activating this, because I can see some of you are starting to answer. Okay, so clearly it's not updating itself. Let's delegate to Claude. Okay. Claudie. Jeets are answering the poll. P1. And nothing is registering. It should auto update the poll votes live, including updating the percentage bars even if I'm in the poll pop-up. Let's see. The format should be user P1, A1, user P1, 1, user A1, user 1. We should have another poll about how the polling system should work. Because I'm kind of thinking that maybe just randomly dropping the numbers themselves might conflict with the grand scheme of things when I'm doing sort of laissez-faire polls. But now that we have the polling system in place, I think I'll probably do this because there's certain things that actually I think are like actually really important. For example, one of the polls is I really want to know what you guys think about which communications application we should use as the base for GTT. Right now we're using Discord, but I gotta be honest, I don't love Discord. I think I like Slack a lot more. I feel like Discord is just, I mean, like, do you see my left bar here? This is like a rainbow of stuff, right? Whoops. What's going on here? Now I realize that I'm a bad citizen for not getting back to everybody. I'm just like crazy busy, but like this doesn't like scream professional software to me. It feels like it's more of a toy than something. I don't know. I'm not getting the right kind of vibes from it. By the way, not trying to be an elitist or anything. Like, I love that Discord came from video games and stuff. I think that's super awesome. But I also expect video games to be like super polished, right? Like, there should be a good style and presentation to it, even for the stuff that I'm building, right? Like, you should have seen the earlier iterations of this. It was not great. This is still not great, but like it's slowly, like you can kind of see the live chat now, right? It's feels like it's leveling itself up and it's looking better and better every time we do another live stream. Like, that's kind of the way that I feel like the software that we use should look and feel. And yeah, my bar is unreasonably high, but that's just because I deeply care. And so whatever this mumbo jumbo is, like, and it's not just that, it's like I don't know, there's just like a lot of wacky stuff. But anyway, I'm not the decider of these things. I mean, even if I am the decider of these things, that's not the way that I think about it. The way I think about it is you guys should decide, because you're going to be using it probably more than I am. So if you guys love Discord and that's the thing that we should be using, then let's use Discord. But if I see an overwhelming amount of support for us to move to like Slack or something else, then we will absolutely move to Slack. So, but in order to do that poll the right way, it needs to persist. We need to have hundreds of votes. We need to make sure that everybody on our current Discord has voted, so we're not just getting like a recency bias or a very small sample set of the first 10 people. Anyway, so we're going to do some really deep polls that are going to go far beyond kind of simple questions like this. Anyway, yeah, let me finish telling Claude what to do to get this thing working. By the way, ideally, if you already answered for that poll, when we fix this bug, because all of the data is mined, it'll autocorrect. So you don't need to answer again. Like your answers, Colin, once I correct this, I'll have, and this is the beauty of building software kind of the right way, is that you can do these auto corrections. Like, so it's a bug now, we'll fix the bug and then we'll retroactively mine and then didn't lose anything. Whereas if you didn't have the right infrastructure for GCC, right? Like if GCC wasn't designed where all of the stuff is being organized in a way that's meaningful, then when we fix the bug and we restart, there would be no history here. So everybody'd have to vote again. But that's just poor software design. That's just designing software in a way that you're not deeply organized and not following good software engineering practices. So anyway, these things matter to me. So let me, give me 1 second here. Anyway, the question that I was going to ask you guys about the polling is, maybe we should require that the A is associated with a number, so there's no confusion on people accidentally typing something. Maybe they mistype something that accidentally changes their vote on a poll that actually really matters to them. And then, anyway, I think that that's what I'm going to do, at least as the current stopgap. And then we can have a poll on it to decide what we should do for the polling system once we fix all this madness. If the user supplies just the answer, then it automatically applies to the most recently created poll. Fix this bug, then retroactively mine all the data from the current live stream to auto update the poll answers for P1. Do this now. Okay. I still need to try to fix this Facebook thing, and then we can get rolling. So we still got a couple minutes. If you need to grab a soda, popcorn. and then maybe we'll be rolling. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, I want to do a live thing. Yes. Set up live video. Yeah, I don't want that. Never allow. Yeah, just allow this time. Okay, what I need really, Facebook, is I just need... Yes, streaming software. There you go. Here we go. Okay, guys. I might... okay. I have the stream key. But I'm not seeing a way to update the stream key into OBS here. Huh. Okay. Maybe all I needed to do is just change it. It says it's streaming now. Hold on. I probably haven't built the plumbing for this yet. Well, it says it's streaming. I don't know, maybe you guys can... Hey, Tom. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Colin's asking... When YouTube took down all your videos, do you have a backup for tutorials on coding? Okay, so YouTube... So I have backups of everything, as you guys probably have guessed. Nothing that I ever record is ever in the hands of the whoever. I always have copies, and not just a single copy. I have multiple copies. So there's zero chance that we'll ever lose any content that's recorded on GTT. That's super important to me, because I anticipate these types of things will happen. Either they'll take us down because, you know, YouTube doesn't like us telling the truth about Google, or didn't I get into... TikTok doesn't like us telling the truth about the CCP. Bet that timed me out. Sorry, tickers. Yeah, so the tutorials on coding, I need to know what exactly you're talking about, Colin, because all the content that was posted on the Trek channel was already on the main channel. It may just be behind the... It's either... Oh yeah, I added this feature too. I can click on a... I can click on a message. Okay, I thought I could. It worked once. It's cool for about a second. So those videos are in the member section, or they are in the live stream. Okay, that's not true. I think I did delete a couple of live streams, but they will certainly be in the member section. And I think you're a member, so you should be able to find it there. But if there's one in particular that you're thinking about, Colin, that you think is gone, let me know specifically what the content is, like what it is I was talking about, and then I'll figure out what it is and make sure I either point you in the right direction or I re-upload it. But to the best of my knowledge, everything that YouTube obliterated from Goju Trek was already on Goju Tech Talk. That's my belief anyway. That's supposedly why they took down Goju Trek, is that they didn't like that I was double posting. The deletion of that second channel was there was no reason. They just were inventing stuff, because that one did actually have 3 or 4 unique postings, I believe, of clips that weren't on the main channel, but they were elsewhere in social. You know, they were on TikTok and Insta, Facebook, all the normal places. Sleepy, what's going on? Hey, I didn't see you. Okay, so I think now we've got the base setup for this stuff. Let me just double check before I shift to have us get into like deep content. Yeah, so IG's rockin', and Restream's rockin', and Facebook believes it's rockin'. Just to be clear about Facebook, I'll share something with you guys. Facebook reached out to me directly and basically said, we want you to start doing your stuff on Facebook, and we'll pay you just to post it to Facebook. And they're not joking, right? So for, between all of us Jeets, I will happily take Mark Zuckerberg's money and share the gospel of GTT on Facebook if that makes them happy. So what's really interesting, though, about Facebook is we're starting to blow up on Facebook, guys. I mean, I think as you know, I don't really care that much about numbers of things, but I really care about quality more than quantity. But the way that I look at these numbers, and I strongly encourage you to do the same when you're thinking about growth, is try not to get confused about the raw numbers of things, because it can be very debilitating if you're thinking like, oh, I want to be really good at something, and you compare yourself to like where somebody huge is, and then the massive distance between you and them. It can feel oftentimes sort of overwhelming, like you'll never catch them. So don't do that. That's my strong recommendation. Instead, the way to do this is focus on for things like this, it's really the percentage growth that is the thing to pay attention to, not the raw numbers. Ignore the raw numbers. They're meaningless. Especially if you're just starting at something, it's mostly just going to work against you and make you feel like you suck. But you don't suck. You're awesome, right? And so it doesn't matter if you have millions, right? And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up, is like, especially when starting social, is they look at something like, oh man, I only have 80 followers on Threads. I'm a nobody. People will never pay attention to what I'm doing. But they ignore things like the fact that you had a 35% growth on that social media over the last month. That's huge. And a way to quickly invert it is look at those big time people and ask, did they have 35% growth this month? I can pretty much guarantee you they didn't. And so going back to Facebook, the thing to pay attention to is keep in mind we don't run ads. I mean, unless it's a sponsored video, so we don't really promote anything. And part of that is it just messes with the algorithm. Like if I really, really get excited about a particular topic, I may promote it. Or if I feel like I'm talking about something that's somewhat contrarian to big tech, and big tech is going out of their way to try to shut it down, then I'll promote it even more. Like what we're seeing with the Anthropic games that they're playing, right? But generally speaking, I don't promote the stuff. I want it to happen organically because that's really the way to do this in a meaningful way. Because word of mouth and organic traction it creates staying power. It's not pretend. So this growth is madness, right? Something happened this week. I think there was some post I made. I was talking about AI research moving away from being science to pseudoscience, and for some reason, that post on Facebook took off. I mean, took off for GTT being non-existent on Facebook. But check this out. So prior to that post, we had and also like the backstory here is when Facebook asked us to go to Facebook, it's a big zero. This was like 2 months ago. It's a big zero. Like all of these were zeros. Instagram was all zero just at the beginning of the year. TikTok was all zero, right? YouTube was all zero a year ago, a little over a year ago. See, these were all zeros except maybe LinkedIn. Because I'm new to this whole social media thing. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. So we were just doing the organic thing, and I never know how this is going to go. And truthfully, I kind of thought that people on Facebook would not care about GTT. Truthfully, I thought the same thing about Insta and TikTok. The reason why it took so long for me to bring GTT to Insta and TikTok is I thought, incorrectly so, right? Really good example of me making a huge mistake by thinking I know something that I don't. I preemptively had decided I knew the answer and I didn't know the answer, right? I was of the mindset that, oh, yeah, Instagram people aren't going to care about GTT, so I'll just stick to YouTube. I was wrong. I mean, guys, we get more interaction and visibility on Instagram now than all the other social media combined. Like, we get more views, we get more comments, we get more, like, for the live stream stuff, we get more on YouTube. And obviously, long form stuff kind of has to go in a place where you can have long form content. But IG is basically the biggest magnet for growing GTT over any of these. So, Goju, 100% wrong. And I even talk about this. I have a video that's about don't know the things you don't know. I did this right here. I knew the answer, and I was totally wrong. Anyway, so I thought a similar thing for Facebook, but this time, I've done this enough times where I'm like, well, I don't think this is going to go anywhere, but what the hell, guys? Let's do it. It's just one more click, and I don't care. Like, I'm unembarrassable. I don't get embarrassed about things. Like, if it sits at 0 and I post 200 things and nobody watches, I don't care. It has no effect on my self-esteem. That's not what makes me do the things that I do. It's largely inspired by my own internal engine, right? This is another thing, too, that I really think holds a lot of people back is I think a lot of people, truthfully, are just very afraid. And a lot of people, I think, they're not comfortable hearing that, thinking about that, but I see a lot of people not achieve their dreams because they're too afraid to try, because they're worried about what other people might think when they try something and they fail. And you don't do that. Like, who cares what those people think, right? The people that matter, like the people that are actually the badasses in the world, they love, I'm telling you, they effing love it when they see people try things and fail, because they see what the rest of the world doesn't see. Is they see someone that is not afraid. They see someone that is willing to try something and make a fool out of themselves and have no regard to what anybody else thinks. And that, my friends, is somebody worth paying attention to. If you have that quality and I come across you, I'm immediately drawn to you, because you're somebody that I know I can probably work with and go against the tide, the grain, the big tech, the whatever, and you're not going to be terrified because 8 billion people are telling you that you're wrong. Because 8 billion people are drinking the Kool-Aid right now, and they're living in a flat earther world because they're being misguided by the propaganda machine that is AI hype, right? This is literally where I was 4 years ago when I was trying to tell people that this whole language model thing was not going to work out. Everybody told me I was in outer space. Nobody, okay, some people would listen, but the majority of people basically, I literally told this to my Stanford class that in 2023, that I wasn't going to teach language models. I had an enrollment, check this out, this is a true story. I had an enrollment of 80 students. And in the first lecture, I made it very clear that I was not going to teach language models in CS 329. 70 of those students dropped the course after I said that. 70. Their loss. The 10 that did stick around, those dudes leveled up. Dude and dudettes, those people leveled up in a major way. And many of them told me one of the best decisions they made is to not listen to their friends and drop the course, because this is back in the time where LLMs were all the rage and people just couldn't get enough of it, but they couldn't see past their own blindness, right? They couldn't understand that this was all hype and this was not going to go the way that it was being presented, but they were too young. They were too unwise to be able to think through these things. And they were so certain they knew. They were so certain they knew the answer that they dropped my course. That's their loss, right? By the way, this year I actually am going to teach language models, because it's been the pendulum has swung so far the other direction. I need to now remind people of the value of language models, because people are so anti-AI now that I need to try to get them back on track, right? This is like this polarizing behavior that people take is just, it's not very good. It's just like working in a space of nuance and understanding that extreme behavior on either ends is usually not the answer, is something that can level you up significantly. That there is a whole world of opportunity that sits in the gray. And I understand it is easier for our minds if we just black and white this shit. But that's not really helpful. Not if it's something that you deeply care about. Because this black and white mentality is not going to get you deep down any rabbit holes. It's going to limit you to basically just superficial knowledge. And you're not going to really understand things deeply if you're just like, I'm 100% for this, I'm 100% against this. It's like, don't be like that. Be very excited about this, but be open to the fact that it has problems. or be very against this thing, but understand that it could actually have some benefits. This uncompromising world that we live in, where we take these strong positions, is, I think, it works against us oftentimes significantly more than it works for us. And minimally, at least in the circles that I run and the students that I teach and the things that I do, this is something I really try to get them to understand. Because it's something that, if I'll be honest, for like the first 35 years of my life, I didn't understand this. And I made some egregious mistakes. I mean, the volumetric amount of stupidity and error in judgment that I made in the first 35 years of my life because I subscribed to this sort of broken philosophy, man, it just slowed me down significantly. So don't do that, right? Work in the gray. Anyway, so what I'm starting to see with Facebook, I want to be honest with you guys, and this is something I absolutely did not expect, but this is what I mean about being open to things. If Facebook continues on the growth rate that it's at right now, based on whatever wackiness is going on, Facebook will eclipse everything with the exception of YouTube. We will have more people paying attention to GDT on Facebook than we do on IG. I mean, in the entire time that I've been on IG, I've never had a week like that. Not once. Now, admittedly, I haven't been on IG that long, right? Maybe 6 months or so, like not even 6 months, 5 months. So that's not that many weeks, but ignore the numbers, right? So yeah, 430 followers in IG this week, only 116. Ignore that. What about the percentages? So this is a 2% growth here. This is 154% growth. If that growth percentage persists, we are loving it. And the reason why I think many of us that deeply care about GTT should pay attention to this is Zuck is basically, he's being somewhat generous. That's a really good way of putting it, I think, is Facebook is being wildly generous with us growing on Facebook. That's actually why I'm trying to stream here. And the way I see it is, one, I didn't know that people on Facebook would even care. Truthfully, I never even thought it would happen. But the bigger thing is running GTT has overhead, right? Like, I want to be able to get Restream work on every platform, but it's $200 a month, right? I have to be fiscally responsible. So if Mark Zuckerberg wants to essentially cover our bill in massive ways and we blow up on Facebook, then we can start to do really incredible things. So this is worth paying attention to, at least for me. Anyway, okay, enough about that. Let's go back to where we were with our polling. We're running this poll. Okay, we have one vote, and I think that's Colin's vote. So for kicks and giggles, I'd love for anybody else that's paying attention right now to answer this poll through your chat. And the question is, how did you first hear about GTT? And here are your answers: YouTube, IG, TT, FB, or other. And I think you can answer, I think you basically say just A1, A2, any of these. And you don't need to preface it with the P1, but you can. You can say P1 this. What is this button? Oh yeah, that's right. This prevents me from deleting. I can delete answers to the polls if no one has used that answer. But the moment someone uses their answer, I'm not allowed to delete it because that just breaks the whole system. So it's basically locked us in. Unless all these people change their vote, I'm forbade from removing that. Anyway, so if any of you are paying attention, drop look at that. It just picked it up. Thanks, Tom. Sweet. Sleepy, I know you're there. Yeah, I understand people absolutely have comfort in absolutes because it makes their life easier. They don't have to deeply reason about things. They can just put people in boxes or things in boxes, and then their life is better. Sleepy, your answer was so sophisticated and awesome, but actually it should kind of figure that out. Give me a second. Marie, it got you. It picked you up. The polling votes should be very forgiving in the way it accepts answers, such that if people accidentally don't get the syntax exactly right, GCC should be able to regex itself to the right answer. For example, Sleepy just wrote P1-A2 and GCC ignored it. We should handle capitalization things, additional spaces, limiters, etc., and still successfully process a poll vote. Update the system to do this now. Restart GCC when done, and mine the text to capture the regex cases that you missed with the prior one, because you should be associating, sorry, I'm writing a novel over here, associating each vote with a user, then you should be able to remine the whole text space and not have any double votes. If you did not burn in an association with users and their votes as a unique set, a unique paired set, fix it and build it that way. Go. Okay. Yeah, a lot of it I think is intellectual laziness. A lot of it too is I think people, it can sound a little bit more like exciting, I think, when people speak absolutely, but at least for me, it tends to do the opposite. I don't tend to think of people that speak absolutely about things as being champions of change or arbiters of truth or things like that. And I know some people do. I see it sort of the opposite. I see it as it's actually, in my mind, oftentimes more small-minded than enlightened. Now, just to be clear, that's not always the case. because I live in the world of gray, and there are times, even in this case, where drawing a hard line on very specific things, like a very small number of things that deeply, deeply matter. Not like the type of soda you drink, right? Or the specific kind of socks that you wear, but stuff that like legit matters. That I think can be useful. I think that can be helpful. But it has to be something that like really matters. It's not just being an absolutist to be an absolutist. In fact, many of the scientist friends that I know, the ones that can work in the gray are often the ones that end up being far more successful scientists. And, you know, it kind of makes sense, is people will listen to them. Whereas one of my students who are former students who run Snorkel AI, Alex Ratner, brilliant guy. In Alex's words, it's a snooze fest. He'd call this, when people like this talk, it's a snooze fest because they're so black and white, they're not saying anything, because oftentimes the black and white stuff has already been said a million times. But the stuff that lives in the gray, where it's about 74.38% this way and the rest this way, or it's carved up in 4 different directions like this, that's a space that like could have a lot of deep exploration. Okay. Now, let's go back to the topics. And I want to get into some of this critical thinking stuff. Because I have a few examples. By the way, if you're on YouTube or Twitch or Kick, 2 of the examples for the critical thinking and deep reasoning are on either sides of my screen. This is on my screen for a reason. On the right side with Discord, I'm showing this on purpose because we're going to critically reason about this and see what we can learn about anti-gravity. This is Paco breaking down what he mined on Google's anti-gravity system, both the pros and the cons. And there's really interesting things that I was able to, I think, sniff out after I started reading this that I didn't know about until I looked at this list. But those things, I think, require degrees of separation to discover, because they're not immediately obvious if you just read the pros and cons just for what they're presenting. You have to be able to do degrees of separation. You have to be able to do granular reasoning, zoom out, shift the camera, zoom in, and connect the dots. Otherwise, it's invisible. Or at least it was invisible to me on a peripheral pass, but then I saw it after I did that granular reasoning piece. Same thing over here on the left with this AGI to ASI. As I think many of you know, I live in the world of fostering goodwill. Like, my default position is I'm going to believe people are intelligent, that they're good-natured, that they are not trying to do harm, and I want to like them, until I start to build up evidence that tells me otherwise. So when I initially saw this paper, I was actually pretty excited because I really liked the title. I liked the idea of moving away from artificial general intelligence to superintelligence. I don't generally call it ASI because I think there's beauty in asymmetry, not symmetry. I think asymmetry is quite beautiful, actually. I don't know why we... I'm a strange guy. What can I tell you? Right? I like things to not be perfect, because the real world is not perfect. It's chaotic. It's disordered. And I think that like, Pick a Christopher Nolan movie, any one of them, and look for things that have the appearance of being symmetric but are not symmetric. And in my own meandering on this, you'll find a huge number of cases. Like, I'm of the mindset that highly cerebral individuals are wildly repelled by fake symmetry. They're much more drawn to things that are asymmetric in nature, especially things that have the appearance of being symmetric and are not symmetric. Like when you have something on your screen and it looks like these two things are divided evenly, but on closer inspection, it's actually that they're shifted slightly to the left. So it has this, right, this like discovery of characteristics in the nuance. Anyway, so I don't call it ASI, I just call it superintelligence. Anyway, in my first pass of this, I was trying to foster goodwill, and I did all that, and I thought this was potentially a step in the right direction. On closer inspection, I've completely changed my position. I want to talk about this, and I want to share with you that after I read the abstract, which I didn't read before, gotta be honest, I was just skimming. And I don't know, the title looked like it was the right direction. I was like, sweet, these guys have figured it out. I actually read it today, and boy, oh boy, do I think they're confused. And I want to get into this. But before we get into that, what I really want us to do is I want us to do this critical thinking and deep reasoning so you can actually get an intuition about them being a little bit off the mark without ever reading a single word of this paper. It's basically just looking at the breadcrumbs. And from my perspective, yeah, absolutely. There's like, Tom, I think there's a ton of research that shows that people are far more attracted to people when they're asymmetric. And when they've done the cases where they've taken people's faces and they make them perfectly symmetric, they look super strange, right? Because it's just so artificial. It doesn't look right when things that are meant to be asymmetric or meant to be moving towards symmetry, but to never truly achieve symmetry. Once that's achieved, I think strange things happen. And I think the same thing happens in mathematics and in science. Yeah. Anyway. For this case, specifically with this paper, I want us to look at this and try to understand what are the characteristics that we might be able to look at just using critical thinking and granular reasoning that could give us an indication on the quality of the paper that we're going to read before we ever read a word of this paper. Because once we do this exercise, I think that there's a really important thing to observe that, at least for me, is something I think about quite a bit from my own personal introspection. And that is having evidence having concrete data that supports you as a person, of someone to listen to or support or champion, is something that I don't think we should be dismissive of. I think it's very easy to be dismissive of it and say, yeah, I don't have that fancy degree from those fancy schools, or yeah, I don't teach at some fancy school. uh, and but I'm still awesome, and I have no doubt that you are, right? Absolutely. But think about it from a more general perspective. Imagine that someone is trying to champion you for someone else, and there isn't an abundance of evidence to support you for that thing. How difficult is it for them to champion you, right? One of the things that I do is I'm constantly trying to help Jeeps land jobs and like move forward in their career. But if they don't have an enormous body of evidence in that domain or that career, even my positive recommendation, that alone, that might not be enough. But if you come to me and need help and you have a huge body of evidence that shows that you're highly capable for this thing, you've just made my life significantly easier. Because now all I need to do is just go into my network and bring your stuff to these people and say, look at them on paper. But on top of that, I personally vouch for this person. That is a slam dunk. Whereas if the stuff on paper, like the idea that motivated me, the way that it was explained is build a body of evidence that is so large, it's irrefutable, that people can't take the position of ignoring you. It's impossible. Your work is so widely recognized and established that no one in their right mind can even make an argument that you don't know what you're talking about or you don't know what you're doing. But more importantly than that, this is the part that I think is the real introspective, the real introspective piece that I think is very hard for people to hear. It was very hard for me to hear. Is that body of evidence actually is far less about convincing them and far more about convincing you. It's about convincing ourselves that the way confidence works, at least real confidence, quiet confidence, at least from my perspective, is twofold. The first piece is having belief in yourself. You have to have that, right? Believe in yourself 100%. But unsubstantiated belief without evidence is just belief. So you have to couple that with data. You've got to put in the reps. You can't just say that you're going to be this amazing swimmer and then not spend all this time swimming and kicking ass and going into competitions and losing and then winning after you lose enough and you get better and better and better. You really have to couple these two things. And that evidence largely is there for you more than it is for them. And from someone that's done this myself, I got to tell you, it does change the way that you think about things because it's not fake anymore. It's, this whole fake it till you make it. I despise this phrase, this term. I don't believe you should fake anything. I think you should have confidence in yourself and believe in yourself, but you should own and be intellectually honest about who you are at every step of the way so you understand your place in the world. I think that when people lose that, this is when they start to become really difficult to work with, or they become like just so disconnected in reality, and people are like repelled by that, right? Like, for example, where I teach, like, I'm lucky. I'm super lucky, guys. I don't show up at this university thinking that I'm the bomb. It's the opposite. I'm a guest. And I don't take that for granted for any period of time. Not for 1 second do I think that I'm like the cock of the walk. I am super lucky just to be allowed to go to that place and be permitted to teach there. This is a gift that I have been graced with, and I'll never get confused about the order of things. No matter how much I achieve, right? I'll never misunderstand the gifts that I've been given, and I will not take them for granted. And I think that this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they start to become really intellectually dishonest and think that they are above it all. You're not above it. When you become above it all, the only thing that you're above is your ability to actually have real impact, right? It's not helpful. Not if you want to do real things. Not if you want to like actually go and change the world. Not if you really want to teach at a place like this, right? Like I have champions on the inside of Stanford, absolutely. But it doesn't matter how much they champion me. If there isn't a massive body of evidence to support me being like a badass, their supporting me means nothing. It means zero. You have to put in the reps. You have to do it. And so don't be above it, right? Humble yourself. Be honest with yourself. And there's beauty in that, right? Because then when you reach the point to where you do start to feel confident, it is true confidence. And true confidence is quiet. It's not loud. When you're truly confident, you don't need to brag. You don't need to flex, because everybody already knows, right? Nothing needs to be said. And also, no one can get under your skin, right? You become unfazable. Like, do you really think that Michael Phelps cares if anybody says that he sucks at swimming? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that anyone could shake Michael Phelps or Tom Brady or Neil Armstrong or people that have like gone, Donald Knuth, Alan Turing, like, and there is, I think, natural skill that plays into it, but all those people, at least the people that I know, it's through an enormous amount of hard work. There are no shortcuts. That's just something that people say. And that, like, there'll be shortcuts that get people temporarily ahead, but long term, all that stuff gets found out. And you don't want to be in that group. Like, trust me. Like, Sam Altman, there was a short period of time where Sam Altman, I think, thought that he was the king of the hill. Guys, that time has come and gone. And that'll never be recovered. Never. He's never going to get that back. Right? Because he's lost the trust of the public because he abused it. He took it for granted. He faked it. He's talking about shit that he doesn't have the slightest clue about. And for a while, people believed it just because it was this magical, phenomenal thing. But now, 4 years later, I mean, just read the tea leaves. There was a period of time where I was trying to tell people, I think Sam Altman is kind of just like not an honest guy. And I would get like voted out of those rooms. I don't get voted out of those rooms anymore. That's also the beauty, too, of saying the truth. Seriously, like there's something that's also really beautiful about telling the truth is it ages like fine wine. Because if you really are telling the truth, your views may be unpopular now. But as time marches forward and people start to see what's really going on, the trust that will be accumulated from you sharing the hard truths that nobody else would share and not being a jerk about it, not like shoving. I mean, I think you guys know I don't ever really say I told you so. Told you this wasn't going to work. Like, now I'm going to flex on you. No, that's not the point of this at all. The point is to actually get us on track as a society and as a species so we don't self-annihilate, right? Because there's moments in time, especially nowadays, where I feel like We're veering really close to self-annihilation. And it's not because of things that we need. It's fucking greed. It pisses me off to no end. And for everybody in the world that's not in the United States, I want to just collectively apologize to all of you for the United States behavior. We don't love it. It's not great. We don't support this greed-based whatever thing that's going on, and we're trying our best to fix it. It's complicated over here, so keep us in your your prayers and your thoughts. All right. So I've ranted and raved. Let me bring up the poll one more time. So here's our poll. Look at this. We got a 50-50 split. Sleepy, it picked up your signal, I think now. So one more time about the polling. Polling stuff is active now. If you see the poll, anybody can answer at any time. You don't need this window to be active. Just remember the question, and then remember what the answer is. I'll post these somewhere, and then all you need to do is just say the poll number and then the answer you pick. And you can change your answer 300 times. So if you pick the wrong answer, you can change it. It only will allow you to have one answer for any poll, but an unlimited number of changes. So please answer this question if you guys are active right now. How did you first hear about GTT? A1, YouTube, A2, Insta, A3, TikTok, A4, Facebook, A5, something else. All right. Now that I've done my meandering for the last hour, we can actually get into some of the content. But before we do that, I need to have a quick bio break. I'm going to leave this on my screen so you guys can see it. And you can vote. Look at that. And Kat didn't even preface it with the P thing, but that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. For the most active, most recent poll, look at that, I picked both of those up. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is how to design software the right way. It just warms my heart. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tom. I really appreciate that. Like, we're... How do I exit out of this thing? Some love there. And also, I'm going to give everybody that votes... By the way, you also get experience and stuff. You level up, essentially, every time you vote for this stuff. And those levels up, that leveling up, honestly, it's going to matter. Trust me, it's going to matter, because there's going to be certain polls that I only allow people that are leveled up to answer, because when you're leveled up, what that tells me is that you're deeply committed to GTT. You've been around for a while, and so I should care, right? You're not somebody that's just shown up on a single stream, or you're not a short timer, or you're in for a week and you're flying in hot, and and then you're out. Ooh, this is hilarious. I can't copy the text from AGI. Okay, from AGI to ASI. Yeah, let me see if I can get that for you, Tom. Okay. I think this is it. Oh no, this is not going to work. Give me 1 second. There you go, Tom. I'll drop this on the restream as well. Oh, you were on this one. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. And then we're going to get into the actual topics, which are right here. Excellent. Give me a second. grab your caffeine and your popcorn and stuff. Alrighty. There we go. Okay. Un momento. Yeah, I also want to talk about Meredith Whittaker. If you guys don't know who this lady is, boy oh boy, is she somebody to pay attention to. Every time I hear her talk, I like her more. I think she's the co-founder and president of Signal, the messaging app, and I gotta tell you, she is one of the most ethical and technologically sophisticated people I've listened to that is at the forefront of a company in the landscape of companies today. She's building essentially unwavering trust and belief from me. I'm going to see if I can find this IG clip that I saw earlier tonight. But you should maybe, if you don't know who she is, feel free to look her up during this clip or this stream or after. But Boy, oh boy. I get smarter every time I listen to her talk. Very, very intelligent woman. And more than just intelligent, she's hyper ethical. Like, she feel like she is. We need more Merediths in the world right now. I'll see if I can find this clip I watched earlier. Okay, so a little fun. There's this movie I happened upon today on Netflix, Per Aspera ad Strata, and I guess this translates to something like to the stars or through the stars with difficulty. Something like that. And it's a... Is it a... Hold on, let's look this up. Is this... Okay, it's a Chinese film. This one. And Netflix recommended it to me. I think this movie is going to become a cult classic. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And most of the stuff that Netflix recommends to me, I'm usually not super impressed by, which is why I tend to not mention any of the gazillion things that Netflix recommends, because most of them are kind of not worth talking about. This one is. If you have a Netflix account and you're a sci-fi nerd, or you like really good storytelling, strong recommend. This is going to become like Donnie Darko cult classic. It's amazing in my mind. And it has this really interesting fusion of appearing to be one thing and then being something else and then being something else entirely, which you'll understand once you start watching it. When I first started watching it, I was kind of expecting nothing, and it was just literally playing in the background. And it caught my attention, because I always have like this third screen kind of just playing random stuff as I'm working. And it caught my attention because there was some wacky stuff going on. I had it fully muted. I wasn't listening at all. But some crazy things were going on the screen. I was like, wait, what's going on up here? So I turned off my headphones and I turned this on, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. And then I started watching the story develop, and then I was like, wait a second, I actually need to watch this now. So I went back to the beginning and started watching it from the beginning, and I got to tell you, like, this is in my opinion, this is a great movie, and it's surprising on just how great it is, because it doesn't initially have the appearance, at least for me, that this was going to be like a masterpiece, and I think it is. I'm really surprised. I watched it with English dubbing and subtitles, so I don't know how like challenging it is to watch the original, this type of thing, but I can say that the English dubbing was, at least for me, it was not bad. So if you're looking for a movie that is playful, it's sci-fi, but also has a really powerful message to it. Very surprising, powerful message. And it is also deeply cerebral. Check this baby out. Per aspera ad strata. It's quite good. At least in my mind. And then we can do a poll after everybody's watched it, and we can kind of see how you guys think. Okay, next fun thing. There's this band that I recently discovered. I've got them playing on repeat right now. It's this band Kite. And there are two songs that I'm listening to almost on like 100-time repeat as these two songs changing and hand out the, I don't want to say this word because I don't want to get flagged content, but if you like kind of poppy but intelligent and like slightly skewed music, where it has a feeling that it's something but actually under the surface is something else, I think you'll probably dig this. So these, for my taste, I tend to be drawn to things like this. Things like the Smiths, where it sounds like it's this really positive, happy, poppy kind of thing, but what's actually being discussed in the song is actually like super dark, similar-ish kind of thing here. Not exactly, but it's got some nice layers to it. There's some good texture. And I found this from Spotify. I think the playlist I had it generate was something like, create me a playlist of music that's sort of, what did I ask it? It was something like, have this 80s vibe to it, but be from the 2020s. So it has a certain sort of nostalgic, pixelized feel, but integrated into today's era. I think that's how I got this discovered. Something like that. And that's working out quite well. And I've never heard of these guys before up until now. All right, so now on to some stuff that's going to level us up. Okay. Speaking of working in the gray, I hear this brought up all the time, this gatekeeping. And usually when I hear it in social media or people say it at the university or whatever, it's usually in the context of how gatekeeping is just bad, right? It's like, oh, these gatekeepers, they're blocking everybody out, and like, screw the gatekeepers, and it's just about creating a protected class system, and they're evil, they're power hungry, all this stuff. And in some cases, I think that's absolutely right. I think gatekeeping can be those things. And I don't love it in cases like that. However, as with many of the things that we're talking about, like living in the gray, gatekeeping in some sense is what makes the world work. And so I want to share a little bit of a contrarian view here, in that I understand the cases where gatekeeping is keeping people out that deserve to be in, and in that perspective, it's bad. But I've seen the opposite. I've seen cases where too much inclusion for the sake of inclusivity has actually caused things to completely fall apart, because there's this overwhelming disposition of trying to be hyper inclusive that then the bare metrics that are required for inclusion are eliminated, and that doesn't make sense. Like, for example, at the uni, some of my students that are, young and fiery about the world, they have very strong opinions about this, and think that there should be no gatekeeping at all. And my counter to them is this. Okay, so let's take the class that I teach. Should you guys teach the class? So let's have no gatekeeping. Let's have no professors. Let's make everybody equal, and everybody teaches. Does that make sense? And at first glance, I think some of them are like, yeah, absolutely. It totally makes sense. Everybody gets a chance to teach. It's like, yeah. I mean, you could try to do that. But if you promote this view of trying to be hyper-inclusive, where you give everybody this sort of equal opportunity, especially for people that are not deserving, you'll likely cause more damage than good. And it doesn't make sense, right? Like, for example, I don't want equal opportunity or like this non-gatekeeped view when it comes to medical procedures. I have no business performing operations on people in a hospital. But if you eliminate all gatekeeping, that's what you get. And that doesn't make sense. Gatekeeping is helpful for many reasons. The same is true about doing like advanced degrees, like a PhD. It is gatekeeping. And that gatekeeping is, when done in ethical ways, it's very helpful. Otherwise, everybody has a PhD. And all the people that don't deserve a PhD, who have done nothing, that know nothing in some area, are just given this, and it means nothing. Now it means nothing, because everybody has it. And without any effort, without any work, that's not what you actually want. So I have seen multiple times this type of thing, what I refer to as death by committee, where people have gone out of their way to try to make things be super kumbaya and perfectly balanced, and everybody gets a voice, and it's total and complete bullshit in my mind. I don't subscribe to this philosophy at all. I think that people earn their seat, and anybody can earn a seat, but you got to do the work. You don't just show up and think that just because you're there, you deserve a seat. It doesn't work like that. I didn't get my seat that way. All the other people that put a huge amount of work and sacrificed an incredible amount to get where they are, they didn't do it that way. And if you start to do this, if you start to promote this type of philosophy, what you often do is you massively disincentivize people to deeply care. And I think that that's not what you want at all. Because some people do deeply care, and other people, unfortunately, are going to grift. And if you create a system where, right, so the point I'm trying to make with this gatekeeping is it's gray. It's nuanced, that there are cases where gatekeeping can be extremely bad when you're intentionally blocking people out that deserve to be in a room, and you're not letting them in because of their sex or their race or their background. Those cases are inexcusable. At the same time, if you have it become a free-for-all, you're not making any forward progress, right? Like, I teach at Stanford because I supposedly have been vetted and I know what I'm talking about on this subject matter. If other random people start teaching this, we could start learning the wrong things. We could end up going backwards, right? Do you really want Sam Altman teaching CS 329? Do you want him teaching the future of machine learning? Because he will. He'll absolutely try to tell us all about how it's going to go, and we'll all be worshiping his tree effigy, right? That's what happens if you don't have these things in place. So we should not take these idealistic views on things. We should, I think, live in this space where we can critically reason about these things and look at it from all these sides and understand where this is actually very helpful. Like, for example, the doctor that performed my shoulder surgery, he's a deeply vetted, widely experienced doctor at Stanford Med, actually. And I picked him. I mean, I think he also picked me, but like, I wanted somebody that really knows what they're doing to do this shoulder thing, because I don't want this to go wrong. And he got to where he was because of gatekeeping. That's really good. That's why I didn't fly down to some, other place and just do this surgery in a back alley, right? Now, I realize this is a very sensitive topic and there's lots of details here, and I could be getting a lot of people very charged up. I understand that, right? I understand all those things, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about this because I hear this slung around on social media, and I really dislike when people take these intellectually dishonest views and try to try to look at a topic that is very nuanced and complicated and make it polarized, either unconditionally for or unconditionally against. I think that's not helpful at all. And I think that when we can deeply think about topics, we can see the nuance. We can see when, like, for example, one of the things that's very important is the way that scientific research works. The way the peer-reviewed scientific research works, if you're not familiar with it, is for you to get a peer-reviewed published paper, you have to submit your paper for the peer review process. And the way that works is you'll have various conferences, journals, this type of thing, at different tiers. Some of them are extremely high quality, like NeurIPS or ICML, iClear, PLDI, OOPSLA, this type of thing. Nature, right? And then some of them will not be as high quality. And it's very much like the education system, right? Very hard to get into Stanford and MIT, a lot easier to get into sort of like the local community college. And doesn't mean that you can't learn incredibly valuable things at the community college. I went to a community college. Some of the most interesting people I met in my undergrad were actually people I met at community college, not at any fancy university. But the different tiers of research venue will often have much more scrutiny on the quality of work that they'll accept. And the reason for that is they have a reputation at stake, that they understand that people pay attention to them because they just produce very high quality content. They have really strict regulations to filter out things that are nonsensical. For example, this paper here, if this paper, notice that it's an archive paper, it's not a published paper, not peer reviewed. If this paper came across my desk for peer review, it's an immediate reject. It's just take me all like 17 seconds to reject this paper. And I can get into all the reasons why. Is it doesn't even meet the basic requirements on like what I would consider world-class work. It's significantly below that quality. And some of these things are just very obvious. And I don't say this as like an intellectual snob or an academic elitist. I say this is like, if you're trying to advance science and you're trying to say something that is substantial, there are certain things that you do that create a level of credibility in the way that you present yourself, that if you don't follow those things, you create an environment where you're not credible. And I don't generally sit on committees or do research for venues that don't hold themselves to a high standard, because I have a bunch of things to do, and I'm not interested in reading like poor quality work. The reason why I serve on these committees is, part of it is service, is I am a gatekeeper, right? I'm a gatekeeper. Like, I wasn't always a gatekeeper. It wasn't always like this, but now I've entered the period of my life that I'm a gatekeeper, and I'm a gatekeeper for 1,500 different things. And let me tell you, being a gatekeeper is not all what it's cracked up to be, right? My life isn't puppy dogs and rainbows. I have to, unfortunately, make some really hard decisions and break news to people that they can't get in, even though they're good people, but their work isn't up to snuff. And, you know, having empathy toward the people who have to do this, I take no pleasure in that. Like, that's not fun. I don't like to do that. I'm all about fostering goodwill and helping people grow. But there is beauty in being able to not accept a paper, or not allow someone to get an A in my class, or not allow someone to successfully defend their dissertation and get their PhD, in the premise of them trying again after they revise their work and level them up sort of appropriately. So with this paper, it's actually somewhat strange to me, because I made a bit of a miscalculation. It's sort of on me, is I made the assumption that because this is coming from Google DeepMind, that this would be a high caliber piece of work. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And I think this goes to show that just because someone has institutional credibility, there's no rubber stamp, not from the real gatekeepers. It's like, if I was reviewing this inside of a real conference, first of all, they would be totally double blind. But then, generally speaking, most of the people in the community that I work in, I know who they are. And I'll be familiar with their work and this kind of thing. But aside from that, I'm going to judge them based on the merit of the actual work. And when I start reading this, it becomes obvious to me that this is an op-ed. This is not like a peer-reviewed publication. Or it's actually interesting to me because I don't even know. Well, if I say this is going to sound somewhat mean-spirited, and I'm not trying to sound mean-spirited, so I'm just not going to say it, but it's strange to me in that I'm not sure I understand the point of this paper. That you seem to have a bunch of people that are probably reasonably intelligent people that could be working on a bunch of things that could be really helpful to science, and I don't know that this is that. I guess the fundamental question is, like, why would you choose to spend your time on this when you could spend your time on things that could actually be moving things forward? Because there's some, like, really gross errors in judgment here on some of the things that they say. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, here we go. This sentence. This report investigates how AI itself might continue to develop in a post-AGI world along the continuum of machine intelligence. What? What? Who cares? Right? Like, first of all, I, I realize this probably sounds like I'm being a total dick right now, but I just want to be real. AGI means nothing. It is a worthless term that has infected the minds of many people, and it's garbage. It should be evicted from our minds. Right? This is me drawing a line in the sand and getting out of the gray. Right? There are certain things, as I was mentioning, as I will be very strong about. AGI means nothing. It is a worthless term that mostly only con artists and salesmen use to try to sound fancy. But anybody worth any amount in the scientific community does not even talk about this because it's a joke. It's like talking about, it's like back when Alan Turing thought that like people had ESP. It's not to say that people don't have ESP. I mean, maybe they do, but until there is an abundance amount of evidence that demonstrates that they do, it's nothing. Yeah. I can't see who's saying this, but I already agree with your comment. Colin. Yeah, exactly. What the fuck? Sorry, that's 2 F-bombs on this stream. I got pretty wild about this. Why are we talking about a post-AGI world when AGI is a term that can't even be defined and therefore will never even be reached? It's a complete waste of time. It's a royal waste of time. Why are you infecting our minds with something that is meaningless garbage? You're promoting propaganda, and it pisses me off, right? I would expect better from you guys. This is nonsense. Like, this is putting astrology into science, okay? I don't care what your zodiac sign is. It has no relevance to the real world. So stop using this worthless language that means nothing and promoting pseudoscience. Stop doing it. Right? It really pisses me off. Because I actually effing care about this. This matters to me. And there's a reason why we've advanced the world to where we are. And it's that the scientists of the world, and many other people, have refused to bend on things like this. When we make the observation that the sun does not revolve around the earth, even if it's heresy, and people end up getting killed for that, they do that because it's advancing the whole species forward, because we need to make a fundamental shift in our thinking. And if we keep living in this like it rains because the gods decided, we're not going to get anywhere. And that kind of belief mechanism will hold us back as a species, right? A lot of people think that the flat earther days are over. Flat earther days are alive and well. It's happening right in front of you. That's what AGI is. It's a flat earther movement. That's what all this hype is about this language models running the world. Stochastic systems can't run the world. This is the most far-fetched, like, massive amount of lunacy that I've ever seen pitched. I don't understand how the world could be this confused. It is the world buying into an emperor's new clothing because people with a crazy amount of money had put money into something, and so they're already invested and they can't get out of it, even though they've realized now that they had a gross miscalculation and judgment. And the only way now that they can get out of it is they have to force this stuff through to IPO and make the public buy into this narrative that is complete and utter bullshit. That's what's going on here. And that's fine for those con artists, whatever. But if you bring that shit over into the scientific space where I live, and you think that that's going to fly over here, like, I got like a serious reality check for you, brother. Well, I'm not going to have any of it. right? You keep that nonsense out of my science. Yeah, I'm a gatekeeper because I actually freaking care. All right. Okay. So that's how I feel about that. Yeah. So I get a little fiery sometimes. Sorry about that. It really does matter to me, right? Like I look at the evolution of our species and where we are, and a lot of people have died, like literally died. Socrates chose to drink the hemlock, guys. Descartes was imprisoned for saying cogito ergo sum. He was stuck in a tower for the church for heresy because he said that he exists because he thinks that he exists. And that was some serious heretical, whatever the word is, shit at the time. That was complete anti-dogmatic heresy. And Descartes advanced the world significantly. A lot of these people did. They put their lives on the line. And I'm not going to allow greed to walk us back into the dark ages because these yahoos are going to, like, take us down this path of pseudoscience. Like, I'm not going to let the people that sacrifice their life and have it end up being sacrificed for no reason. Like, not while I'm around. Like, they're going to have to take me out too. You know, honestly, that's probably the way I'm going to go, right? I've thought a lot about this. Like, I'm seeing some of the stuff the big tech's doing, and I got to tell you, I thought I was protected. I thought, I've got a little bit of a following on YouTube. I know a lot of kind of important people. I know that I'm just a tiny nobody, but I've got a lot of giants that look out for me. And if I were to just vanish, people would notice. But I am seeing some stuff that's happening that's making me start to wonder about my own safety, right? I just, so if I get vanished, I want to tell you, if I get vanished, and I'm halfway joking and I'm halfway not joking, it's because of what I'm saying on GTT. It is Anthropic or it's OpenAI. Those are the people that are taking me out, just so you know, right? I used to think it was only that OpenAI would do it. Now I'm starting to think that Anthropic might do it too. Google's not going to vanish me, right? For sure. And the U.S. government, there's no way the U.S. government is going to vanish me because they like me, right? I help them and stuff. Now, I do think other governments might want to vanish me, but I tend to be really careful on where I travel and stuff. So, but I wouldn't put it past companies like OpenAI, right? In fact, as crazy as this sounds, I've had closed-door discussions with many people about the safety of my life if I publish diff. Like, and not as a joke. Like, a lot of people are terrified about what would happen to me if I publish the diff white paper. This is part of the reason why we haven't published it yet, is a lot of very serious people that understand how the world works really think that the moment I publish that paper, I might be disappeared. And I don't really think that's going to happen. But I did work in the TSSCI sector for a decade. And I have an understanding of how things work in the world, like how they really work. And people do get disappeared. Like, it happens. And a diff could disrupt things. Like, it could disrupt a lot of things. It could cost a lot of people a lot of money. A lot of money. Like billions of dollars. And so that's part of the reason for the hesitation. Like, I'm just going to be totally honest with you, is there's some wisdom in us waiting to publish the diff white paper until after the IPO madness, because then diff still comes out, but the worry about my personal safety decreases significantly. But if it comes out before the IPOs and people realize that this could be a massive game changer for LLMs and you shouldn't do that, instead you should do what I'm proposing, that could make the bottom fall out of that. And if that might not be good, right? And truth is, I actually do want to, I've got things I want to do, at least for the next 20 years. Like, I have a very concrete plan. I realize this might sound like I'm just talking about random stuff, and I almost wish that I was. It's a weird thing to have conversations like this. And they're real too, right? This is not pretend. For those of you that aren't deeply involved in GTT, you probably either don't know what I'm talking about, or you think I'm probably saying just random stuff and it's all make-believe. And believe me, brothers and sisters, I wish it was. That would be awesome. Because then DIP would just be published and I'd go about my day. But it's not. I've had a lot of closed-door discussions with people that are extremely powerful, giving me very, very strong guidance to not publish that paper. So I've listened to them because, I mean, even I kind of know my place in the world, and I don't have 200 person army outside of my house protecting me from whatever could be thrown at me, right? I don't have that kind of wealth to support that kind of thing. And when you talk about costing a company on the order of tens, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars, it's pretty easy math. It's actually very simple math if you just look at it from their perspective. Seriously, right? This person is a risk to our livelihood. They could end up costing us tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars. If they didn't exist, then there's no threat of that. Make them not exist. OpenAI has done it before, right? You guys know about that case, the whistleblower case. Look at the stuff that's happened with Boeing. Follow the breadcrumbs with Boeing. What was it, like 3 or 4 people that were going to testify against Boeing? And they all just happenstance vanished themselves from existence? What about all these scientists that are just disappearing, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. Like, there's an unusual number of scientists, specifically in the United States, that are just not around. They were, and then suddenly it's like, where did they go? They're just not there. And these are some pretty well-established scientists. Like, it's a little bit of a shit time to be a scientist. Yeah, maybe I should switch to being just an influencer. Maybe that's what my big plan is. I'm just switching my job. My real job is, I actually am not a scientist anymore, guys. Just so everybody knows. I just do social media. I'm just an influencer. and I do comedy. Anyway, here's what I'll do. After this IPO stuff happens, this is my promise to you guys. After the IPO is complete, I'll tell you truthfully about the conversations, so you understand like the severity of what we've been talking about. Um, yeah, because I think that for those of you that are like deep into GTT, I know that I don't do fluff. Like I build real stuff, and I don't make up stories. And I really am trying to push things forward. You may be very curious to know how this went down and why there is this massive stall, right? Because I'm very much a person of my word, and when I say I'm going to do something, like I just do it, right? And I said I was going to publish this stuff on Diff, and then where is it, Goju? You said you're going to publish it. You've even seen the white paper. I've shown it on GTT. You know it exists. And let me tell you, some people have looked at that white paper and they're like majorly leveled up. That white paper unlocks a lot of stuff. I actually think could be my magnum opus. It took me 4 years to figure out how to do this shit. It was not, and that's after working in the field for 20 years. This is really not easy for me to figure out. Anyway, enough about that, but fun little side topic. Let me bring up the chat window just to see how things are looking. Yeah, I mean, look, for those of you that haven't seen the white paper, yeah, not really, Colin. I mean, so a lot of people ask this question, right? Like, couldn't somebody just figure it out? I mean, no. I, I mean, I do think someone else could discover diff, absolutely, but so the short list of people that could invent diff, I know personally. There are 10, 20 people in the world right now that are in the position that they could independently discover diff. I know them all personally. I could give you a list of their names, right? Armando Solar Lazama is one of them. Tim Kraska is another. Coincidentally, Jan LeCun is not one of them. He wouldn't be able to figure diff out. He doesn't understand enough about programming and software engineering. Because keep in mind, diff is principally for hard science. I don't really... Yeah, and Jan, for as smart as he is about ML, he is actually surprisingly not as advanced in programming languages. And this has been demonstrated numerous times with some of the somewhat simplistic work that he's done in prior stuff that those of us in the PL community have been surprised by on its lack of substance. In fact, it's pissed a lot of people off. At one point, I think one of their papers was claiming that they invented abstract syntax trees. It was like, no, you didn't. That stuff's existed for 50 years, guys. But if you read the paper, which I have, they claim that in the paper this is one of their technical discoveries. And all the discovery is that it's like they use an AST to do stuff with ML. Like, yeah, we've been doing that for a while, bro. No. You didn't invent ASTs. And also, if you think inventing an AST or using an AST is groundbreaking work in the PL space, you're clueless, buddy. Like, we're way beyond that. And that's what I mean, actually, Colin, is like the stuff that exists structurally in diff, at least from a programmatic side, very few people have a deep and nuanced understanding of temporal reasoning and the ability to abstract out intention through temporal windows. Like, it's a very advanced topic. And then you have to essentially be masterclass in 4 domains simultaneously: machine learning, software engineering, programming languages, and systems, all at once, to invent diff. All of them at the same time. Now, it's easy to be an expert in one of those. Lots of people are experts in one area: expert in PL, expert in ML, expert in systems. Being multidisciplinary, where you're an expert in 2 fields, is extremely hard. So I know some people that are. Um, Kaushik Sen, professor at Berkeley, he's an expert in programming languages, and he's an expert in software engineering. Those are 2 distinct fields. And then there's other world-class people that are experts. Some people are experts in like 3 fields. Armando Solar Lazama, he's an expert in machine learning. He's an expert in programming languages. He's an expert in formal systems. All 3 simultaneously. Very, very few people that are at that level, right? That's like having 3 PhDs in one person. In order to invent diff, you have to have 4. You have to have you have to have that level of expertise. You have to be able to essentially discover and invent bleeding edge research in those 4 domains distinctly to come up with it. Yeah, and so the truth is, like, as far as the 10 people that I know, I think that they could potentially invent this. But here's the thing: they're busy doing other things, and they're making significant contributions too in the stuff that they're working on. They don't really care about inventing diff because they're inventing stuff that is as consequential, just in different domains. So they're not going to like shift, because even if they have the capability, the work that they would have to do to get to parity it'd probably be like, I don't know, maybe a decade. It's not to say that they wouldn't get there. They would. I truly believe they would likely get to those same observations. But very few people, even today, have the ability to do intent reasoning over temporal windows. It's an extremely complex idea, right? Think about this. The NeurIPS paper that we published on precision and recall for time series, which was like this NeurIPS spotlight paper, which is sort of a big deal. All we did was essentially make the observation that inference doesn't work with precision and recall, which are the fundamental classification mechanisms that are used for machine learning, for time series. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work. How is it that that wasn't figured out until 2020? Precision and recall have existed for over, is it like, I think the mathematical discovery of precision and recall is maybe, I want to say, it's like 1,000 years old. It is really well understood. But there's been heavy research in precision and recall for at least the last 100 years. How has no one else figured out that precision and recall don't work for time series? How did that not get figured out? The reason why is doing things in time series is extremely hard. It's not just slightly harder, it is orders of magnitude more complex to reason about. It's like the shift from doing serial programming to parallel programming, except that on steroids. Very few people can do research in parallel computing because the way you have to reason about things is significantly more cognitively demanding. You can't reason about normal threads of execution that happen sequentially. You have to be able to hold into your head multiple threads of execution that can have different contexts and different views of the world that are all running concurrently at the same time. And so time series stuff is basically like that, but like 10 times harder than that. And so a lot of the work and research that has happened over the last 100 years, I mean, if you think about it in sort of a more general way, the incentive mechanisms for professors, which are doing a lot of the, tier one bleeding research, the scientists and that type of thing, their incentive mechanisms I'm just going to call it for what it is there's very little difference between getting a paper like Precision and Recall for Time Series published at NeurIPS than a normal paper at NeurIPS. Even though that work, and in that paper, all we did was we presented 2 new equations. That's all we did. That took us 4 years to figure out. 4 years of a team of like 5 people working on this to figure out 2 equations. 2. How many people do you think are going to commit their life to that kind of madness when they can get essentially the same level of publication, just running the LLMs overnight and doing a minor little tunable thing and then making it super fancy and calling it a day? And if academia is basically rewarding, not necessarily on merit, but more as a bean counter, you are incentivized to pump out the stuff related to the bean counter. But some of us don't kind of follow that model, right? This is why I've said many times that I'll never be a tenure track professor. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in participating in the rat race. I'm far more interested in producing extremely high quality things that potentially take me significantly longer to develop, and end up being far more meaningful, right? Like Nautica took me about a decade to build, but I liked it, right? I really care about the things that I work on, so I will spend a ridiculous amount of time on it because it just kind of matters to me. Like I'm not kind of wired the right way. And I know that I could take the easy path. Like for example, like let's just be real for a second. I think I have on the order of maybe 165, 170 issued patents. I can be a massive ideation machine if I want to be. Absolutely. And Intel wanted me to, that example, the reason why I have basically 170 or 200 issued patents or whatever that number is I was just playing the game. I was literally just playing the game. That I wanted to be able to run my own lab. I understand how the game works. And so, okay, you want to see what I can do? Here you go. I'll show you. And did I end up running my own lab? Yep, I did. Now, is that my finest, best work? No, absolutely not. I mean, some of them are cool, but those patents, many of them, like I figure that shit out on a walk with the dog, right? And to be fair, like that's after me working in the field for decades. So the things that I can figure out on a walk with a dog are probably not maybe what the normal person could do without that much background. Again, with the same background, I'm not special in terms of intelligence at all. Seriously, I'm just a normal dude. The only thing that makes me different is I just have an unwavering amount of perseverance. I don't stop. I become obsessed. This is the thing that makes me different. is most people are not wired this way. And the truth is, like, I can tell when other people that I meet are wired this way. This is why I have so much respect for Linus Torvalds, is I know that Linus is wired the same way that I am. And that's how he was able to build Linux and Git, is because Linus and I are cut from the same cloth. Linus could build whatever the F he wants to build. But if Linus isn't at the helm to figure out how to build Linux and Git, those things don't exist. Because in order to build that, you have to have someone that has not just intelligence, you need to have someone that has unwavering staying power, that they are unrelenting in their pursuit of a singular vision. And very few people have that. Like, truthfully, very few people have that, in the sense that they will not be thwarted from a path. It's they're very special people if you find them. Anyway, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm actually trying to do the opposite. I'm just trying to say anybody can do this. Anybody can do patents and publications and PhD and all this stuff. You just have to be unrelenting in your pursuit of it. That's, I suspect Linus Torvalds would say the same thing. And I know that Richard Feynman has said the same thing. Yeah, I think it's exactly right, Diego. There are so many people I've met in my life that are significantly more intelligent than me, but they're lazy. And so and actually there's, just to go on a little bit of a side topic here, there's a very interesting correlation between high degrees of intelligence and laziness. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, is that people that have been praised for their high intelligence, we've done a lot of people a disservice when they were kids, is praising them for being smart and not praising them for effort. Praise people for effort, not for their intelligence, because even if they are that smart, you're just born that way, right? Like, even if I happen to be smarter than the average person, I did nothing to deserve that. That was just a roll of the dice. So anybody that flexes about how smart they are, that's just like, you're clueless, because you didn't do anything to deserve it. Now, if you flex about the things that you know or the things that you've accomplished, that's totally different. Like, you've put in the work to flex on that. But if you flex because you have 190 IQ, like, this is so boring to me, right? It's like someone flexing about them being 6'5". Like, who cares, bro? You were just gifted with that. Understand the difference between your gifts and your accomplishments. So, the thing about perseverance is that's not a gift. That's a skill. And what I've seen is that a lot of people that are hyper intelligent, through societal norms, have been trained to take the easy path. They've been raised to believe that they're special and that they are amazing because they can solve problems slightly faster than other people. And they can, but then that works actually to their advantage because they don't build up really strong study skills. They don't build up work ethic. They don't get used to the idea of failure because they just succeed. But just in the early stages of life, because let me tell you, when you get to the more advanced stuff, life changes from being on easy mode. There is a significant difference between trying to do things like basic arithmetic and template metaprogramming. These are not the same. So just because it's easy when you were in second grade does not mean that it's going to be easy by the time you're trying to defend your PhD and everybody in the room is just as smart as you, if not smarter, right? So I've seen a lot of people go down this path, and it's really unfortunate because it's almost like the craziest part is, in many cases, it's almost like it's not even the person's fault. It's society's fault because we're praising them for the wrong thing. This is why I often like go off about this, because it's almost like we're to blame. We made this happen because we ourselves didn't have the ability to distinguish between someone's accomplishments and someone's gifts. And it's crazy too, because we know not to do this, right? We literally will talk to our friends, right, that are or our children or our brothers and sisters and say, listen, you know what? You were gifted with the beauty gene, but get over yourself, MF, because your looks are only going to get you so far. You actually have to be a good person. So stop being full of yourself. Get over the fact that, yeah, you're good looking, but in the real world, nobody cares. And you need to level up your other things, your other qualities, like being empathetic, being compassionate, being kind. We do this behind closed doors with people. Well, not all the time. Sometimes people end up with pretty privilege and they don't get the conversation that their parents or their siblings should have had with them. And then they end up being like the Kardashians or some shit, right? And that's not great. But for people that were raised in a good household that brought their kids up with the right kind of upbringing, I think that those people are grounded and then things work out okay. But in those same households, I've seen that we don't do that for intelligence. And it's crazy. I don't know why. Right? Like this literally, one of the first lectures I have in my class at Stanford is look around the room. Do you see everybody here? They're all just as smart, if not smarter than you are. Get over yourself. You were special before. You're not special here. Okay? We're all at 190 IQ. That's not going to be the thing that helps you succeed here. The thing that's going to help you succeed here is how much you work. So check your ego at the door. We don't care. Right? Literally, I do this in the first lecture because I'm trying to ground the students, because some of them, they do come in like, I mean, yeah, the selection criteria is pretty high here. So there is a little, and some people play into the Stanford name, right? I don't love it. I love the university that I teach at because of the people that are there. That's why I love it. I don't give two flying F's about the name of the place. I care about the people at the place. My mentor, Alex Aiken, is there. And I worship the ground this guy walks on. He's taught me an incredible amount of things. And I also get to work with some of the best students on the planet, right? They're amazing. It's the people. It's not the name recognition. But some people, especially younger people, oftentimes get confused about this. It becomes a pedigree thing, and I make it my personal quest in life to shut that down and remind them that getting in is the easy part. It's actually surviving. That's the hard part. What's going on, Jalisco? It's good to see you, brother. All right, I've been ranting and raving for a while on all kinds of things, and I want to take a moment and flip the script and have you guys look at something, because I'm curious to kind of test out this critical thinking. So I'm gonna Yeah, cat, 100%. Yes, it's just yes, yeah. Like for example, there are two papers that I've published in my life that mean the most to me. Yeah, two of the, I don't know, however many papers. It's yeah. I have more patents than I have papers. Oftentimes they're kind of considered in the same thing, but of that list of things, there's two that are particularly important to me. Not because everybody knows these papers or I can flex, but because they matter to me because what is said in those papers are super meaningful to me. And those two papers are, in some sense, from an outsider's view, they are polar opposites of each other. One of the papers is the precision recall for time series, right? Like I drove that research. I was the visionary behind this. For 4 years, I oversaw that, and we rewrote the mathematics for precision recall. This was I'd never really done that before, if I'm being honest. Um, Not really, and that was hard. That I often say that like there's no such thing as hard. That might be the exception. That was hard. So that's one paper, but a lot of people know about that paper, right? It's well cited and it's at a fancy conference. The other paper is the three pillars of machine programming, which is not at a fancy conference. It was published at Maple, which is still peer reviewed, but it's nowhere near the prestige of NeurIPS. And while thousands of scientists or whatever know about the precision recall paper, okay, actually, maybe more people know about the three pillars of machine programming than the time series paper. But the MP paper is the foundational paper that drives almost all of the work that I've done over the last decade and continues to drive it forward today. But it's not of this super caliber thing like I can flex and say, oh, this paper was published at NeurIPS and it was all this amazing thing. And the reason why I care about those two papers more than all the rest is that the papers that I think are, they say the most. They essentially push the envelope the most over anything else. And they took a long time to figure out. They weren't something that could be done overnight. Like, I think the three pillars of machine programming, that paper took us 3 years to write. It was a long time. And that's with the huge crew of MIT. There's like 6 MIT professors or some nonsense on that paper. And these are senior staff MIT professors. These aren't like junior professors or anything. Yeah, there are no students on that paper. It's all just like everybody on that paper is a PhD. Yeah. Not that that's a gatekeeping thing, but just like there's a lot of very senior people that spent a long time thinking about this to try to figure out what to write about. Anyway, so let's do one more thing on this live stream before I call it a night. It's getting a little bit in the early hours even for me. I want us to look at this paper, and I'm just curious, going back to the critical thinking and things, that if we think from the lens of critical thinking and deep reasoning or granular reasoning, what are some of the things that you can think of that you might do to try to assess a paper's quality before ever looking at the paper itself? So what I mean is, you're basically trying to get a sense of what you're getting into before you even get into it. Like, what can you expect? How can you get the best sense of what you're about ready to be served prior to looking at this? And keep in mind, this is actually part of the process that we go through on these peer-reviewed conferences. Is you'll often get the abstract. You get the title and the abstract first, and you have to vote on it. You have to vote if you want to be looking at this before you ever get a chance to see the paper. So this is not just a hypothetical exercise. It doesn't mean anything. This is actually something that people do. But here are the rules of this game. Is anything that's related to the paper, aside from the words in the paper themselves, just the words in the paper, everything else is fair game. What might you do in like a degrees of separation that could give you a hint about whether it could be, oh, I know this guy. Is this Charles Sutton? Oh, it's not Charles Sutton. It's somebody else. Charles Sutton, by the way, who's also at Google DeepMind, he's a good friend of mine. This guy's incredible. Charles Sutton is actually on that list of people that might be able to invent diff. Really short list, but Charles could probably figure it out. Interesting. Okay, so Kat's already starting to answer. Oh, this is great. You guys are already jumping into it. Long paragraphs indicate slop. Yeah, I totally agree with this. Might sound obvious, but seems a little attention. Yeah, the title is absolutely one. This is really interesting what Kat's mentioning. The part that I'm the most interested in is this. Kat, can you elaborate on the second piece? Good title, good abstract. Yep. 100%. Read conclusion. Okay, is that part of the paper? It's kind of part of the paper, but it's a little bit outside of it because it is in some sense, the post material. So I'm going to let that fly. That's really good. These are all great answers. I love this. I want to hear more about what Kat is saying. Kat, can you explain to me what you mean by the second piece? The first piece too, because I think you know stuff that other people might not know. Because the author hierarchy actually is very important to understand things about papers. For those of you that may not know about this. Cited references. Yeah. The work they use to either infer or challenge the topic. Yeah. 100%. Okay, you're on fire. Can you say anything else about this? Like, I think I know what you're saying, Kat, but I'm hoping you can say more about what you're saying. And not for me, because I think I know what you're saying, but so everybody else might level up to what I think you're saying. Because there's some implicit things that Kat, I think, is saying here that she's alluding to. Yeah, oftentimes what you'll see with a lot of work that's pretty solid is the abstract and the conclusion are almost identical. The only difference is the conclusion will be written in past tense and the abstract will be written in the present tense. Also, order the paper, table of contents. Yeah, the ordering of the paper tells you, I think, in some sense, the cohesiveness of thought, like how it's organized. Yeah, I love that. Uh, See me mentioning abstract above, do not beep. Hey, AGC, yeah, we don't do this, bro. Yeah, don't do this. Yeah, this sounds like attacking our fellow Jeets. We don't do this. Um, so, but what did you say? You see, good title, abstract. So Colin's saying something different. Um, because I think that there's two things here: the abstract and the conclusion. Depends on the paper. They could be seen as different things. I generally find like really solid work, they'll almost be mirrors of each other, but it's not always the case. Because sometimes conclusions will include future work, and abstracts almost never include future directions, but conclusions will. Okay. Uh, Hold on. I generally dig into what papers are crap or gold if they're using a lot of junk. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now Kat is saying what I think she was hinting at, and this is extremely important. This is extremely important what Kat is talking about, and she's 100% right. This is one of the most critical clues that you can get from a paper. I want to read exactly what she's saying here. I generally dig into what papers are crap or gold. If they're using a lot of junk, then you can probably link the same level of quality to the content. Rarely is it the opposite. Okay, let's put this in even clearer terms. What I think Kat is saying here is that if the references themselves are garbage, it is highly unlikely that this paper is not going to be garbage. This is really important to understand here, okay? I am not saying, nor do I think Kat is saying, that if the citations are masterful, that the paper itself will be masterful. That's not what we're saying at all. And by the way, I 1,000% agree with what Kat is saying. This is one of the most obvious clues about the quality of the paper. If you see a paper that cites garbage, it is almost a foregone conclusion that this paper will be garbage. However, the inverse is not true. It is not a certainty that if a paper cites brilliant works, that the paper itself will be brilliant. That paper could still be garbage. But I have never seen the case, never, that a paper that cites work that is complete trash end up not also being trash. In my mind, there is a direct correlation. It's not causation, because the paper sucking is not caused by these guys sucking. I think that the paper sucked. Well, okay, maybe it is causation, all right? But it's definitely at least correlation. I could see some cases where, like, this paper sucking just sucks because it sucks. But then they cite these other things. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that correlation stands, and maybe there's causation. And the reason why I say maybe causation, because it could be the case that the reason why it sucks is that the stuff that they're reading sucks so bad, and that's why it sucks, because they're reading the wrong stuff. They're reading garbage. All right, so what does it mean for references to suck? Okay, here's a clue. All the citations are coming from archive. Archive is not peer reviewed. Okay, it's true that you can't just, most people can't just publish things on archive. You have to be in whatever this group is that's accepted, and I don't actually know how it works. I just know that most people are not on that, but some people are. Like, I guess if you published a whole bunch of paper, then archive knows who you are, and so you can put things on archive. But it doesn't mean that archive does any kind of peer review. So one of the things that you can do very quickly to determine if a paper will be almost undoubtedly garbage, look to see how many archive citations they have. Let's take a look. Archive. Archive. Look at this. Preprint. Right? Preprint. What is this? Situational awareness is a website? You're setting a freaking website? Right? Like, and I don't care what website this is. This is not peer-reviewed science. Right? Archive. 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 No disrespect to Wiley, but Wiley is also not peer-reviewed, right? And there are like higher tiers of published work. MIT Press is quite good. Wiley publications are not in that same space. Okay? OpenAI? Holy... You're citing OpenAI's website as a reference point? Archive. Okay, this is a legit citation. Nature? Nature's the real deal, right? Look at this. ICLR. ICLR is legit awesome. This is a very, very good venue. It's in like the top 4. NeurIPS, iClear, ICLR, ICML, and SysML. Top 4 in my mind. Yeah. And I think I serve on all 4 of those. Or I did. I think NeurIPS has kind of pissed me off lately because they're accepting garbage. And archive. Nature, very good. AAAI, it is peer-reviewed, but it's not anything special. Okay, I don't know about this. We'd have to look into this. I don't know, but I don't love websites as not archive. This is ICML. ICML is very good. Archive. This is garbage. This is garbage. I already know what the answer is. This is garbage. I have a rule in my class for the final project. When they write their final project, there are 2 rules on citations. You cannot cite Wikipedia. You cannot cite any paper that's on archive. It must have a peer-reviewed, published paper to be considered a citable piece of research, a peer-reviewed, scientifically evaluated piece of research. This paper would get an F in my class purely based on the references. They would fail. This paper is going to be garbage. I can tell you right now. By the way, I'm not saying anything about the authors themselves. The authors themselves could be amazing. But this paper, because I'm attacking the paper, I'm not attacking the authors. The authors could be geniuses. Absolutely, I hope they are. But I don't know what's going on with this paper. I would have nothing to do with this paper. If I was a co-author on this paper, I would demand, I wouldn't ask, I would demand that all of the references change to only include peer-reviewed scientific research, or I would withdraw my name from this paper. I would not be associated with this paper. Look at all this archive bullshit. This is a huge... What is this? This is garbage, is what this is. This is garbage. So I don't even need to read this paper. I already know the answer based on what Kat's observation was. I'm done. Literally. And truthfully, like I literally, if I were given this paper to review at NeurIPS or iClear or ICML, I would say, I didn't read the paper. I looked at their citations, and they're so below the bar of what is acceptable for citable material that I don't need to read the paper, because they would minimally have to revise all of the cited work to include meaningful, truly substantiated and validated peer-reviewed research that I know the outcome of this paper. We would reject this paper because this would be unacceptable. The reputation of the conference would be at stake. It would be at risk. People would laugh us off the stage if we accepted a paper like this. Garbage. So, there you go. We know the answer. And notice, too, that all we did... And by the way, in looking at the abstract and some of the things that they're saying, we know what the answer is, because we see this very strange claim. And I want to say this one more time, because I know people at DeepMind watch GTT. All of you authors, I'm sure you're amazing people. You rock, okay? But you're citing work that has no business being cited in a paper if you expect intelligent readers to read and actually put faith in, because you are substantiating it with things that have not been substantiated themselves by peer review. So if you want the world to take this work seriously, you must revise your citations to make sure you cite truly substantiated material that has merit to it. And until that point, my answer's going to be the same. And I'm sorry if that sounds like I'm being a jerk. I'm just trying to help here, because maybe nobody told you this, but you don't do this. Citing archive is, I mean, Wikipedia is more deeply vetted than archive is, right? I literally could write a bunch of nonsense right now, and I could submit it to archive, and archive would accept it because it has my name on it. I'm not going to do that, right? But that's how easy it is to get stuff on archive. It means nothing. So, but we already know the answer to this, because there is a claim in here, or a question that's being asked based on an assumption of something happening where the something happening is impossible to happen. We'll read this sentence again. This report investigates how AI itself might continue to develop in a post-AGI world. I can stop right there. There is no post-AGI world. How can I say this so definitively, so absolutely? We do not know what AGI means. How can we possibly be beyond AGI? when we don't even have a concrete definition that we could measure against to tell us that we got to a post-AGI world. This is, in Colin's words, a full stop moment. I don't need to read anymore. Because if this is what you're going to talk about, you can't get here. You're using the wrong words, man. You guys, if you're trying to say something that we should pay attention to, you need to change this to something that has scientific merit. Otherwise, this is just pseudoscience. And I don't generally read research papers that are doing pseudoscience. I do science. And science is things that can be empirically demonstrated in a repeatable fashion. That is the foundations of the scientific method, right? That's how it works. You have a hypothesis, you test it, and if the hypothesis doesn't stand against the tests, you do one of two things. You change the hypothesis so that that hypothesis works for the data that you have, or you throw that out because it doesn't hold. Therefore, if you cannot test the hypothesis because you don't have a clear definition of this, you have nothing. You do not have science. This is not a work of science anymore. This is a work of science fiction. Sorry. Not sorry. I would kind of have expected better from DeepMind. I mean, I would be, I don't know. Yikes. A little yikes. So, there we go. But I love it. I mean, at least for us, right? And again, I mean no disrespect, Google DeepMind. I know a lot of people there, and I know some of them watch GTT, so I'm already sorry. But if you're being intellectually honest, you know, too, the things we all just said, they're not wrong. And it is a little embarrassing. You might want to pull this paper and fix it, because I don't think that you're building confidence amongst the people with this. I think you may be suffering a little bit of reputational damage with this. I certainly wouldn't have my name attached to this, purely based on the reference material. Well, that, and I highly doubt I would ever be involved in a paper that uses this letter acronym. That's just me personally. I don't subscribe to pseudoscience. And that's what it is. Man. They do quote Alan Turing, it seems. And that's cool. I mean, that's... Yeah, it is a little... it feels a little fluffy to me. AJ. Yes, absolutely. Right. There's a lineage here. Right. For example, one of my most influential mentors is Morris Herlihy. Morris is, in some ways, my academic father. I literally call him Prof Dad. When I email him, I'll say, "Hey, Prof Dad," and then I'll sign off and say Prof Son. Morris taught me a lot of what I know. And so if you want to get a sense of me, just read about Morris. And again, I'm counting my blessings here, because I was extremely lucky. I don't know why Morris Herlihy decided to mentor me. I never expected that would happen. Not in a million years. When I started investigating transactional memory, did I think that the guy that invented the field of transactional memory would be my mentor. I mean, this guy was God to me. I mean, I'll be honest, he kind of still is. Like, I I'm under no delusions that I will ever reach the status of Morris Hurley, and I'm totally fine with that. You talk about one-offs. He's a one-off. His mentor, by the way, just as a point of reference, Morris's advisor is Barbara Liskov. Barbara Liskov won the Turing Award some years back. So the point about the lineage is absolutely on the money. It's not to say that people that didn't have the best mentors can't go on to be great, but I will tell you that if you have the opportunity to be mentored by greatness, don't pass that up, man. That is a gift. That is a very, very special thing that's pretty hard to come by. Anyway, guys, this has been amazing. I'm super pumped. I'm glad we got deep into the trenches and discussed all the thing. And now we've got Facebook streaming, although admittedly, I don't think anybody from Facebook has joined, but I love having a big zero there. Now the question is, how long do we... Actually, I take that back. I think I saw someone show up on Facebook for a second. So we did have a Facebooker for like all 7 minutes. Small footsteps, my friends. With that, we are actually just at the 3-hour mark, and it's also Goju bedtime. So everybody, thanks for joining. This has been amazing. Keep going, keep growing. We're going to be doing this again tomorrow night.